Talk to me a bit about that, Captain. So you have this aircraft that we will see. Talk to us about a mass flypast.
All right. I think, Griselda, if you look at the parade, how it's going to unfold, especially when the president has delivered his address. So what's going to happen is you are going to see a march past. So march past, the first thing that would happen, you're going to see the actual soldiers and sailors from different arms of services actually march passing in front of the president, and then you will see. And then now, after you have seen the soldiers and the sailors, what you're going to see is mechanized, mechanized march past. And this one is going to include, the prime equipment. That's what you're going to see. So the South African Air Force aircrafts are actually going to be part of that, because there's no way that you can showcase the Air Force without an aircraft. So in an essence, like we spoke about, what Armed Forces is about, that we are showcasing our capability, and to the extent possible, we are able to demonstrate. So that will be part of the demonstration, and I'm looking forward as we'll be having those discussions around that when these things happen, because then you'll be able to see, because there is an element where, to the extent possible, we are then able to demonstrate as to show capability, because what better way to be able to demonstrate see. So that's exactly what we're doing. So we will be able to have about 4 formations just in an overall from the South African Air Force as well, but we'll definitely take you through as they happen, because all these things that we're talking about, we'll be able to see the visuals and then we can speak to them. But I'm definitely looking forward. So the best and the essence, it is at some point we should be able to demonstrate, and what better way if people cannot see it. So that's exactly what's going to happen, and I'm looking forward to that. And then you will also see some of the equipment from the South African Navy as well, and then you will see the equipment, or prime mission equipment, from also the South African Military Health Service. So it's very important. So I could say to our viewers, to the extent possible, they can just stay with us and stay glued to our screens as they get to see the Defence Force. And for the people in Thohoyandou, they'll be able to see that and actually been having some sort of a close proximity to that as well. So I am really, really, really looking forward to today.
All right, a bit of a delay at the moment. Fortunately, there isn't. We're trying to hear if perhaps there might be. There's also, if we spoke about, Captain, the mass flypast introduction, there's also, very importantly, the helicopter formation. So the helicopters participating today will be coming from, will come in heading 170 degrees, magnetic north. Now, all of that is other language to me, but maybe just signifies to us the importance. I know the Roy Falk combat support helicopters from 16th Squadron will be here, as well as the Kawasaki BK-117 from Air Force Station, I think that is in Port Elizabeth. The sequence of how proceedings are expected to unfold is also very important. There's a thought process that goes into it.
Definitely. I think everything matters, because any small component is part of an integral way of being able to execute. So if we were to speak about the South African Air Force, the fly past, it's going to consist of at least 4 formations. So you're going to see about 4 different types of aircrafts actually flying past here. So the first one, it will be the helicopter. So part of that helicopter, there will be a Roy Falk. As if you can see, that there might be about 3 of that. 2 of them, interestingly, they will be in a color white. So this would be the ones that also were used as part of UN, deployment in the DRC and all that stuff. So they'll be coming, and then towards that as well, you are going to have a CASA formation as well. So it's a different type of aircrafts as well, where you'll have about a Cessna there and a CASA 212 as well. And another formation that you're going to have a jumbo formation as well. So it will have, a bit of Astra aircraft as well. And then the last formation as well that we are also looking for, it will be then a combat formation. So some of the aircrafts which will be part of that as well. It will be the gripping and the hawk. So we'll get to see the different types. And as I've said, and I just want to emphasize and also re-emphasize that Armed Forces Day, it's got an element where we get to showcase our capabilities. So to the extent possible, what we are also doing is to bring the different, prime mission equipment. So this is about 4 formations from the South African Air Force that you will also get to see, because in an essence, that's exactly what we are talking about, where we get to have a bit of different, capabilities and then stuff like that, different capabilities that we're going to show. So it will be interesting actually to see how everything actually unfold. And then we'll talk also to some of the interesting facts in as far as these aircrafts are concerned as they get to fly, because when we see the visuals, then we will talk more onto that as well.
All right, would like to now bring in, of course, the Lieutenant General retired Vusumuzi Masondo, military ombud. Lieutenant General retired, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. I mean, first of all, if you talk about the office of the military ombudsman, we're talking about complaints that you would receive from soldiers, also members of the general public. That's exactly what your office would have dealt with.
Thank you very much, Griselda. Let me use this opportunity to greet the viewers of your program. My office was established in 2012 through an act of parliament, the Ombud Act 4 of 2012, to deal with complaints from serving members of the SANDF about their conditions of service, and also former members of the SANDF about their conditions of service. We also deal with complaints from members of the public about the official conduct of members of the SANDF. By official conduct, we mean whilst they are on duty, not, whilst they are off duty, yes. Mm.
And Lieutenant General, you would have some of these complaints when the SANDF is deployed. Not to put any spanner in the works or a damper on, we're going to have that kind of deployment now. And many questions, of course, have been raised about whether the deployment, of course, a good idea to deal with issues pertaining to crime and illegal, organized crime and illegal mining. But the concern that our soldiers are trained to kill, so them having to be in these communities with civilians is for a good cause. But then you start getting complaints like one incident that we saw take place in Alexandra a couple of years ago.
And of course, we must remember during the COVID time, it was the first time that soldiers were deployed in such big numbers. And at the time, of course, they were not really prepared to do it. This time around, the president in the State of the Nation address has said that the soldiers will deploy in support of the police, But we think this time around things will go much better because of that experience of 2020. And of course, the soldiers, before they are deployed, they are taken through some orientation program where they must understand the area they will be deploying in and also how they must behave. But crucially, we must understand they are deploying in support of the police, so they won't be in the forefront. But even though it's like that, we expect, of course, to get some complaints somehow, yes. Mm.
And how are some of those complaints dealt with, in particular when it comes to the conduct of some of your troops? But first, before we get there, it's not only just about complaints from the public. We also get complaints from the troops themselves about their conditions. Those are some of the issues that have been raised. When many talk about a celebration of this nature, the fact that it is important, not a celebration, a commemoration, why it is important, but equally so, the conditions that some of our troops have to contend with where they are deployed.
Yeah. What we need to understand, the soldiers are the kind of people who are ready to lay their lives for the country. And it is crucial, therefore, that you know, their rights as soldiers are protected, that we make sure that, you know, when they are dealt with, even if in cases where they misbehave, they must be dealt with within the law, within the prescripts and all that. So, but in terms of general complaints, our Act makes provision that first they must lodge their grievances within the SANDF. Only when they've exhausted that process, they can then come to our office. You know, but we always try, therefore, to make sure that once their complaints come to the office, we deal with them expeditiously, being sensitive of the fact that they would have spent some time with the grievance process within the SANDF.
Lieutenant General retired Vusumuzi Masondo, thank you very much indeed. Military Ombud speaking to us very crucially about very important aspects of, you could just step that side for us. Thank you very much. We do appreciate your time.